Everybody, Invisiblekatana here with my review for Captain Marvel. Of course, as the title suggests, there will be spoilers in the second half of this, but naturally, I will let you guys know when I get to the spoilers with a spoiler warning. Going right into it, I was kind of right down the middle with this movie. I feel like everyone's kind of been the same, except for the people who like just are totally bashing the movie for the whole feminist stuff, which means I don't care. I just wanted to see the movie, and I was excited to see it. Excuse me. And after coming out of it, I was like, okay, I thought it was all right. I felt like I did when I was watching Ant-Man and the Wasp, where it was just like, okay. And it's hard to tell. I was like, I don't know. Like, when you look at it all, I feel like it's the movies themselves. Because sometimes, you always have your bit of comparison. And it's really unfair to compare anything when it's like, Infinity War came out, then Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it's like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Avengers Infinity War came out, though. So that's in your head, and it's like, yeah, it was okay. And then this comes out, and it's like, I think in 2 months or something, Endgame is coming out. So it's like these two movies crammed between these two movies, which are just like huge. And it's just like, I try not to have that in my head and just be like, what is this movie? And I felt the same way, like I said, with Ant-Man and Wasp, where it was like, it was okay. It wasn't, I don't think it was bad by any means. It just didn't like blow my mind. Going through it, I would say, personally, I probably prefer to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp again because in this movie, I felt like everything that I did like was done better in Ant-Man and the Wasp. Because this was actually surprisingly funny. I didn't expect it to be as funny as it was. But there's like a lot of comedy. Captain Marvel herself, like Brie Larson plays her as a character. Like she's very snarky throughout the film. And I was like, I like that. I wasn't expecting that. Because, we don't really know the personality of her character outside of like the one scene in the trailer where she's talking to Fury where it's like, we're a race of noble warrior heroes. That's really like the one scene that I feel encompasses what she's truly like in the movie. And it's like she's kind of cocky, but not, not cocky enough to where it's annoying. She's legitimately like just cocky enough, and she backs it up. And that's why it's like at the perfect level where it's really not cocky, it just becomes snarky because it's like she's good. Like she's good at what she does, and so are, her teammates and stuff. So it kind of makes sense that she's snarky and things like that. And it's like, cool. Like, she's kind of she's kind of got no cares in the world. She's kind of just like, I'm good at what I do. There's some issues there. It's not everything's perfect, of course. But she's like, I'm good at what I do as far as being a soldier and stuff like that. And so she's kind of cool and she can kind of coast and be snarky and make jokes. And it's like, okay, I like that. I thought that was actually entertaining through the film. It wasn't insanely funny or anything like that, but it was definitely enjoyable. And that's why I would say Ant-Man and the Wasp had it better, whereas like some stuff would just be like, it's a comedy movie. And it was just funnier. And then, oddly enough, the same goes for the action. I enjoy the action in this movie, but I was like, I just didn't feel like it was, really spectacular or anything, because just watching through it, it was like, okay, you get a little bit of hand-to-hand combat in the beginning. I would say in the very beginning and like the end of the movie are really where like the hand-to-hand things come into play. And there's like one scene in the middle of the movie that was actually, I thought, really cool because it wasn't explosive. It was just like, man, that one person is in particular is kind of just getting beat up right now, but it looked good visually. It was just like simple, clean, and it was like that's just how it looked. So I like that one. But like in the beginning when they would do some of the hand-to-hand stuff, it was like I felt like there were a bunch of jump cuts, and maybe I'm just crazy, but it was like the fact that it was cutting so much and the fact that the scene itself was already kind of a dark sequence where they're doing this hand-to-hand combat, and I was like, I'm just not enjoying it a ton. I was like, I feel like there are a bunch of cuts and they weren't really doing anything that spectacular. It was like, there's like, do like, throw a punch to the side or something like that, or like flip the person to counter them. And I was like, I feel like there's a bunch of cuts here and this isn't even that big of a deal. And this is like an actual fight sequence, but some of the stuff they've shown in the trailers where it's like Jude Law's character, like training Captain Marvel, stuff like that. And it was like, okay, that made a bit more sense, and it was a bit brighter, and it was them training, they would be doing stuff, and it was like, okay, that makes sense. They aren't going all out, so it was like, it was all right, okay. I enjoyed that. It made sense that it was a bit slower paced. There were some cuts here and there, because of course you had the stand-in come in to do like the fancy flips and kicks. So it was like, okay, that's normal stuff, I was fine. But when it was like the actual, like the first legitimate hand-to-hand combat scene with real enemies, I was like, this scene is darker, and I felt like they cut a million times, and I was like, they aren't even doing anything special, with all these cuts. It just felt like it was too many jump cuts during this fight sequence. So that kind of bugged me. And then as it progresses, as she, gains more control over her like photon abilities, it becomes less and less hand-to-hand combat, and it's just like, boom, she's blasting stuff. So it's like, it's kind of, it looks cool to see. Love the visuals for it, but it was just like, okay, well, now it's not even hand-to-hand combat, which is like my personal favorite, but it still wasn't like insanely spectacular. Of course, with this being, I'm pretty sure people have mentioned this is like the 21st film, which I don't count, so that's shocked me when I actually heard it. And it's like, okay, well, honestly, it's a little hard to make anything look new when you have a character that shoots beams, because we've had Iron Man 800 times. So it's like, oh, it looks different than the repulsor blast, of course. It doesn't have like the charging sound effect or anything like that. But it's just like, it's still kind of like, in the end, it's like, yeah, it's just a beam shooting out of her hand, though. Yeah, she can do way cooler stuff with it, because they show some of that stuff, and some of which you even see in the trailer, like when she's like fully lighting up. So you see some of that stuff that she can do that's way sweeter. And I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with her character, at some point, down the line, but they don't even touch the surface of like the overpowered character she is, from the comic books. Like, she can do so many ridiculous things. Like, she's basically like, even though there's technically a character that's pretty much exactly Superman, but for Marvel, she's basically that. She's basically the Superman of the Marvel universe. Like, she can do so much stuff. It is ridiculous. Like, it's just insane how overpowered she is. But maybe they'll touch on that. Maybe considering this takes place in the 90s, and then you go to wherever she's going to be, going forward in the future. It's like, all right, well, obviously this won't be the last movie. I mean, it's set in the 90s. They're going to have her. She doesn't die. So, spoiler, like, she doesn't die. So, we'll see her at some point in the future. But it's like, maybe we'll see more of her abilities wherever she ends up showing up next. So, I think that'll be a cool idea if they decide to do that wherever she shows up, going down the line. But I thought that was super cool. I was like, all right, we'll see what we can, what they end up doing with her character. And by the end of the movie, you see a little bit more of her abilities kind of coming into play. So, looking forward to that in the future. But as far as this one, it was like, it's okay. It wasn't as epic, as, the stakes were so high in Endgame. Any action sequence was probably cool, just for that alone. But even with Ant-Man and the Wasp, they have that idea of, or, not the idea, but the mechanic of, shrinking and growing and, expanding stuff that's around them, or shrinking things down to make people trip and little stuff like that. And it's like, you don't have that here. It's just, boom, and she's blasting stuff, some hand-to-hand stuff, because she has super strength. So it's like, okay, it wasn't as entertaining to watch, because it wasn't particularly new. It was just like, okay, it's stuff we've seen slightly different. So that's kind of the unfortunate thing I feel really hits the whole movie. It's like, all right, some of the funny stuff has been done funnier. Action stuff has been done in cooler ways. There's a scene that, of course, will make people think of Guardians of the Galaxy, because they literally play music over something that's happening, and it's not as good as Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think has a lot more to do with, admittedly, it's literally just the fact that they chose songs that aren't as good. I think there might be 3 scenes where they do that, and I think I love the first and the last one, because I actually like the song. So it's literally just based on the fact that the songs themselves are what make the scene. And it might be like 4 times in the movie where it happens. So it might be like half of those songs I like, or 2 out of 3 of the songs I actually do like. But, they do it over an action sequence, and it's just like, I don't really like the song. It's not like that catchy to me, and it just plays. And it's like, it just kind of makes you feel a little bit, it's like, okay. Even though I didn't personally think of Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of people, of course, will mention that. A lot of people have, like, some of the reviews I have seen, people have mentioned that, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of Guardians of the Galaxy. I just thought, I just don't like this as much. And it was even in the context, oddly enough, without even thinking of Guardians of the Galaxy, where both those movies are kind of based on that. It didn't even occur to me, and it was still just like, even without comparison, I was just like, I don't really like this music choice for this specific scene. But I like the other ones that they had. So it literally is just, if you like the song, you'll probably like the scene. But if you don't, then it'll probably just be like, just be like, whatever. So, yeah, and that's the same technically for Guardians of the Galaxy. But I think they did so much curation for those songs, because they are meant to be, a part of the film. That's like almost what the movie's made around, that it just works way better, because the music is like, there's just like all hits pretty much. And in this case, it's not. So, in that regard, it's like, okay, well, Guardians of the Galaxy did it better. The action, a lot of the other Marvel movies did it better. The comedy, it was a lot funnier. Once again, Guardians of the Galaxy. But it's funnier in some other things. So it's like, oh, it sucks that it has all these little elements that make for a good movie. Like I said, like it feels like I'm just trashing on this thing. But it makes for a good movie. But it's just like, well, I can pick this from this movie and enjoy the whole movie for that one element, and it's great. Or I can pick this movie, for that one element in it, for action or comedy, or even for drama. There's not as much drama as it should be in this movie for a character who is going through what she goes through. I won't get into full details, even though it's probably obvious, from the trailers. It's been done better. It's technically been done within the Marvel universe. I didn't think of that either, but there's some elements even in the main story where it's like, oh, this thing happened, and elements, there's tricks and storylines here that weren't revealed to certain people. Some of that stuff has been done better in other Marvel movies. So I was like, that's another element. And I've that's just funny. Like that just came to my mind. So there's another movie that I can think of for the drama, and the very specific element that takes place within this film. But still enjoyed it. So as much as I was trashing on it, I still enjoyed it. I do think it's worth seeing. There is a good twist in the movie that you probably see coming more if you're not actually a comic book reader, oddly enough. So if you're going into it comic wise and you're like, I know this, and this, some of the elements that they throw in to be like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. It creates for a twist. But if you don't know, you'll probably be able to kind of see it coming just a little bit. And some people who even did read the comics could tell, just from some other stuff that they saw. But it was like, okay, I thought it was cool for me. But I like the movie. I would say it's worth seeing. I don't think, you need to rush out to see it or anything like that. Same with Ant-Man and the Wasp. Like, both these movies were legitimately like, all right, so some of this stuff will have some effect, in the future for the Marvel films, mostly with Endgame, of course. And it's just like, well, this is just to let you guys know what's happening. And that's pretty much it. It's just like, all right, here you go. And now you know why this thing is going to happen in Endgame. Or, here's a reference to something that might connect in some way, shape, or form. And that's pretty much it. So, honestly, you could wait if you're just like, I don't really know if I want to see it. You can wait. And honestly, you won't miss that much. I kind of hate to say that because, you should go check it out. But yeah, you won't be missing much. Like, you get a bunch of references because it's in the 90s. So you get your 90s references to stores and, old terms that people don't use, as often anymore. And of course, you get all your references to stuff early on within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So a lot of stuff with Nick Fury, who's in it way more than you might expect. I didn't think he was going to be in it that much. He's actually in it for quite a bit of the movie. So I actually thought that was super cool because I was like, oh, we haven't seen Sam Jackson really as a big part of a movie since Civil War. And technically, he's only in like the second half of that movie or something like that. So I was like, okay, that's actually pretty sweet. I kind of like that idea. So it was cool to see him in so much of the movie, and he'll probably, like if you've seen the Spider-Man trailer, it seems like he's going to be in pretty much that whole movie. So I think that's kind of cool. Like, we're going to see more of Sam Jackson. But he did great. I think all the actors actually did really well. I want to say the main villain, if I'm not mistaken, was Ben Mendelsohn, I believe is his name, who is the main villain from Star Wars Rogue One. He's a good villain here. He plays the Skrull. I actually think he's a really interesting character. Kind of one of the elements that's a bit of a twist, just the way he acts throughout the film is like, oh, okay, that's very interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Just his personality, for the character. And some of the stuff they do kind of doesn't make sense, admittedly. Like, there's some stuff that happens when they get to Earth where it's like, I don't think you should. You've been here how long? And you like some of the stuff they do and say, I'm just like, okay. Certain random things just happen, and I'm like, I don't think they would know that because everyone talks about how they haven't been to Earth, but they're doing random stuff, and it's like, when did you go to like Shake Shack, or like how did you go to you just found a restaurant and just went there just to test out Earth food or something? Like, it was just random stuff where I'm just like, they just do some weird stuff, and they're saying phrases, Earth phrases and stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. They like that just popped up. And I was like, okay, whatever. Little stuff like that. You'll notice it like throughout the movie. Little stuff like that happens for people and creatures that have like never been to Earth or have only been like one time maybe, and it's like they're just busting out all these terms and phrases, and they get references and stuff like that. Same for Captain Marvel. It's stuff like she'll be saying it, considering the whole story of her like going away and stuff like that. It's like some things I feel like you're just so common about, even though certain elements of her story make sense. So there's stuff where she's so like, okay, I get that. So common about it. It's like, you shouldn't get that. I don't think you should understand that 100% like you do. But it's just one of those little things where it's like, that kind of doesn't make sense. If you like really get to the nitty gritty of it, or even just on the surface level, it's just like, well, they shouldn't know that thing. It doesn't make sense. So little stuff like that, it's kind of weird. But all in all, I think it's a decent film. I would say check it out. I wouldn't say you need to really rush to see it. But I do think it's a good movie. I would say like it's above average. I would say like it's just, a little bit above average. Like, if I had to rank it, I'd give it probably like a 6 or a 7, something like that, right down the middle, 6.5 out of 10 or something. But I'd say see it. I don't think anyone would legitimately be disappointed with the movie. I think it has a lot of good stuff that will either catch you off guard, or you'll just see stuff that you were expecting to see, and I think they did it well. So I think no matter what, you'll enjoy it. It's just not going to be bombastic. It's not Avengers. It's not going to be like that, and it wasn't insanely hardcore or as intense as it probably should have been for it being the lead up to, going into Avengers Endgame and stuff. But that's going to be so insane, I guess, they could have put out a stick drawing movie and it'd been like Avengers Endgame is coming up, and everyone would still be like, yeah, you're right. So I guess it doesn't matter in the end anyway. But I'd say it was pretty good. We're gonna be getting into spoilers officially, so if you haven't seen the movie, this is where you should probably turn this review off. Go check out the film, come back. If you don't care, we're gonna get right into spoilers, and I'm actually gonna start with the thing that I think I thought was a little weird with some of the characters knowing things. Mainly the scroll stuff. Like when he came in with something about, you gotta be nice to your neighbors, they might want to borrow a cup of sugar. I'm like, I guess it makes sense that he would know that now that I think about it, because they mentioned the memory stuff, so it kind of makes sense, but it was still weird. It was like he went and got like, he's like borrowing a cup of sugar, and then he's just like drinking a shake and stuff, and I'm like, okay, I guess he knew that right off the top. Captain Marvel was like super nonchalant about a lot of conversations and random stuff where Fury would make jokes and references, and she just got him off the bat, even though she was supposed to have like 6 years worth of memory completely wiped out. And it's just like, okay, I mean, like, sure, some stuff she would get, some stuff she shouldn't. Like when Fury was going through the stuff with all the states and stuff like that, I guess technically that was really just to be like, okay, he seems genuine about the things that he's saying. But it was just like, yeah, she doesn't really know any of this. She's just kind of nodding her head like, And then a lot of, random conversation they would have if he said, certain things or certain references. It was just like, okay. And she just kind of went along with it. Like, they make a point of her being like, we'll see, as far as her being able to fly the ship. And it was like, oh, yeah, she could. So it's one of those weird things where, like, even though the scene came up where he was referencing all the states and stuff, I was like, it kind of fits. Like, if she's having these random flashbacks, it makes sense that in her subconscious, random little stuff would just be like, yep, okay, that makes sense. I do know what that is, but it doesn't trigger consciously where she's like, oh, crap, I'm remembering stuff that I shouldn't know. So in my head, I made up my own story where I was like, it kind of makes sense that she would know, but in the scheme of what they wrote and put out to us as viewers, it's like, technically that doesn't make sense because she shouldn't remember anything because she doesn't. So little stuff like that was the weird little thing, but all in all, I liked it. I know people were mad about Nick Fury losing his eye to the cat or the Flargon. I thought that was funny because I couldn't remember. I was like, I don't remember if they changed that element of the character, because Goose is a character from the comics who's actually named Chewie, by the way, for anyone who didn't know that. So it was really weird that even though Disney now owns both Marvel and Star Wars, they changed the name of the cat from Chewie, which of course was meant to be Chewbacca. They changed it from Chewie to Goose, which also makes sense for the whole, obviously for anyone who doesn't know, it's a Top Gun reference because they're pilots and stuff, so of course you make it Goose. But it was still weird. I was like, well, that doesn't, why change it from Chewie? And also, well, I don't remember what year Top Gun came out, but Goose was supposed to have existed back when they did that, and I think it's set in like 90 something, and I know Top Gun came out in like the 80s, but I feel like I don't know if it was early. I don't know, maybe it fits, maybe it doesn't, or maybe it was supposed to just be a random name, but obviously we know it was meant to be a reference to Top Gun. So I don't know if that technically works within their own continuity in the movie, because I don't remember the exact year Top Gun came out, but it was weird that they changed it. But I like Goose. I thought Goose was funny. And, they go through with the whole cat thing. And it's like, that's a Flargon, and the Skrull are freaking out. And I wasn't sure if it was going to actually be a Flargon or not, or if it was just going to be a cat the whole time. Because I was like, well, this is really funny because they're freaking out and it's just a cat. And it was mostly because it made me wonder. I was like, okay, well, do all Flargons look like cats? Like Rocket Raccoon isn't technically a raccoon. He's genetically modified. Although he is technically a raccoon, he's a genetically modified raccoon. He just doesn't identify as a raccoon. I was like, is it going to be that sort of thing where they think it's a Flargon because cats look just like Flargons, the space creatures, or is it really going to be a Flargon? And it ends up being a Flargon. So I was like, okay, well, that was kind of funny because I was like, I can't tell if they're going to actually do it or not. So I wasn't sure. So it was funny when it happened. So I like that. Fury losing his eye. I know a lot of people were mad about it, like I said, being the cat because of the whole element of like, what? They just slamming doors. It was like the whole element of like the last time he trusted somebody, he lost an eye, which doesn't make sense because it was just a cat. Unless he's saying he trusted the cat and lost his eye, whatever. He also did say Mother Flargon. They threw that in there, so I thought that was good on them, I guess. But yeah, the cat I thought was fine. I didn't think the cat was a big star or anything. I know some people love the cat, some people hate the cat, mostly because of the eye thing. And I was just like, cat's cool, had some funny stuff, revealed it's a Flargon. I thought that was funny. So I like that element. I like the characters. Ben Mendelsohn's character I thought was actually entertaining. He was like this real villain dude, and then he's like making jokes and stuff. So there was a bit of a switch there, but I was like, well, I kind of like the switch, so I'm totally fine because he wasn't just the generic bad guy. Like, we have to do this, this, and this, very robotic. And then he switched to like this real relaxed dude, especially at the end. He's literally like in a sweatshirt and stuff. So it was kind of just really silly and funny to me. So I was like, I'm okay with the switch in that case. So I was fine with that. I like what they did. The de-aging stuff was good on Samuel L. Jackson. Same, I can't remember the actual actor's name, but for Coulson's character, it was okay too. They didn't do it as much on him. I was like, I felt like there was hardly a difference at all. But maybe it's just because it's been a minute since I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Like the last season, I think was like a full year ago at this point. So I didn't really remember 100% as well as I did for like Samuel L. Jackson, who's also in like a million commercials. So I'm always seeing his face currently. But for what they did with Coulson, I was like, I feel like he doesn't really look that much younger. Like they didn't do much. So I guess technically they did change his hair color because I'm pretty sure his hair is close to gray at this point. And of course they gave him like the tiny little peak in the front to be like, that's a young hairstyle. But I was like, I felt like they didn't do it as much on him. But like I said, it's been a minute since I've actually been like, what does he, look like currently? So it felt like it wasn't and it certainly wasn't done nearly as much. Like Samuel Jackson literally has no hair. So like they went through a pretty serious process of being like, here's fake hair, here's a whole fake face. We got to do CG on all of these different elements and give him like, he was balding and stuff. And at this point, Samuel Jackson, of course, is completely bald, little stuff like that. So they went like full out with Samuel L. Jackson. And then with Coulson, of course, it was like he was in like 3 or 4 scenes or something like that. So it was like, okay, here we go. But yeah, decent movie. I feel like there's not that much to really talk about with spoilers. It's just like, okay, you go through the movie, there's some reveals, stuff that they did with the scroll, the scroll being the good guys, Kree being the bad guys. Oh, nice twist. They have Ronan the Accuser saying we're going to come back for the woman, so I think that's a reference not to Endgame, but to them going like way down the line for the Marvel movies, or the Kree could come back in Endgame. That would be very interesting, because I would not see that coming if they're like, that was what they were referencing, like the Kree are coming back in Endgame. I think that would be great, because, excuse me, I don't know what the heck they would do there, but that would be so cool. So that'll be interesting. We'll see if that ends up happening. The one thing that I don't like about the scroll being the good guys is the fact that we won't get Secret Invasion. Like, that's basically what that means. Like, they're not the bad guys anymore. So it's like, well, that sucks, because Secret Invasion is freaking amazing. And I was really hoping this was like the first time we see the scroll, and then we won't see them technically for like 5 movies or something crazy. And then 10 years down the line is like, surprise, a bunch of people have been villains the whole time and they've been the Skrull. And then it was like, no, the Skrull are the good guys and the Kree are the bad guys. I was like, the Kree can't shapeshift, so that sucks because you can't do Secret Invasion with these guys. So I was like, well, that's sad, because Secret Invasion is great. So it's unfortunate, but it was a decent twist for the movie, but it's like really sad because I'm like, I wanted Secret Invasion to be one of the things they did, down the line so bad. And it's just like, well, now they can't because the Kree are, the Skrull are good guys. But they could easily say, like, they're a bad Skrull, and then they do that, and then they bring, Ben Mendelsohn back as, like, one of the good Skrull or something like that, where he finds his own people and helps them figure out who's who. So they could still technically do it, but it seems like they probably won't with the whole, like, the Skrull are actually the good guys, and they're scattered across, the galaxy and stuff, and they're all, like, nomads and, homeless and stuff. So it's like, they probably won't randomly build up to be the bad guys or something later. So it's like, that's kind of sad, but okay, decent twist for this specific film. But good movie. Obviously super excited for Endgame. Of course, they show Captain Marvel in like the quick scene. The intergalactic space beeper eventually stops because she actually showed up. And I love how they did it too, where it was like, set it back up or something. They have Black Widow saying like, I want to know who's on the other end of that line. And as soon as she turns around, it's like, she was just there like a freaking ninja. Like, I don't know how she got in or anything that makes sense. I don't think she can phase through stuff. Considering, at least from all the powers I can remember from her character, she can't phase through stuff. I could be wrong about that. She does have like a trillion. But she shows up like a ninja, and it's just like, where's Fury? And I was like, that's actually a cool way to do it. I wish that was the second credit sequence, because of course the second one was like nothing, because it was just it was better than Ant-Man's, I'll say that, with the ant drumming and stuff. I was like, well, dang, like crap. Like, it made sense that it would be like a nothing thing, but it was like, they technically had that in the trailer, and it was so freaking short. It was like, well, dang, you see half of that super short sequence in the trailer when they show the ant drumming for like a couple of seconds. And it was like, that actually kind of sucked. That really sucked. So it didn't like make me mad, at least like the Ant-Man and Wasp one, where I was like, that could have at least been something. But I still, of course, just wish they reversed it, because they know everyone's going to stay till the end anyway. And people who don't, that's on them. That's their problem. Because people do. And I forgot to mention the stuff. Well, I guess wouldn't have spoiled it anyway. But them opening the Marvel movie with all the Stan Lee cameos, I was like, I can make it through this, and I did, fortunately. And and I loved his cameo in this. It was honestly, it's probably my favorite one so far, outside of maybe the Tony Stank, because that was just funny. But him reading Mallrats, I just thought it was really good. I was like, that's super fun. I didn't even think of that. And then it's like Mallrats, who's like, and he's saying, like, trust me, true believer. And I was like, that's such a good, ridiculous reference, and it made such perfect sense. And I didn't even think of that all the time. It was like, it's set in the 90s, set in the 90s. I didn't even think of the fact that his cameo could be him referencing, Mallrats. And I just thought that was so good. I was like, that's funny. So that was really good, and I don't know if this is officially the last one, because I didn't think he was going to be in this one at all. I didn't think that he had filmed this one before he had passed away. So I don't know if they had one for him in Endgame or not, or if he was able to do that beforehand, because technically that finished a while ago too. Because I was thinking the same thing as Endgame as I was with this, where it was like, he won't be. I didn't think he would be in Captain Marvel because it was so far away at the time. But I guess it made sense. I mean, I figured he would be in Spider-Man. Oddly appropriate one if you haven't seen Into the Spider-Verse. Oddly appropriate, especially because that was the first movie after he passed away. Not counting, like, I think technically Wreck-It Ralph 2, but whatever. But I think that was the first one. It was, like, oddly, like, timed for that. But yeah, I didn't think he'd be in this one. So I don't know if he'd be in Endgame, because I don't know when that finished post-production or when it even went into post-production. So he might actually be in Endgame. That could technically be his last one, which would be oddly feel like for it to be that one, with it obviously being as big as it is. So I don't know if he's in that one or not. You guys could probably tell me, but I was surprised to see him in this, and it was like the perfect one. I was just like, crap, I never once thought of that in my head. Like, yeah, I just assumed he wouldn't be in this, but it was great to see that he was, and I love that. And of course they're going to do it for Endgame, where it's going to be him in the opening. I hope they do it again. I hope that they do that for Endgame as well. Like, as much as it makes sense to have the normal one because it's the Avengers officially, who cares? Stan, like, they should do it again with Stan Lee. So I thought that was great. So I hope that we get to see that again for Endgame, because I think that would be fantastic. But that's my ending for my small spoiler section here. Even though I mostly spent time talking about Stan Lee, which is appropriate. I mean, Stan Lee. But yeah, we'd love to know what you guys thought about this movie, spoilers and all. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about the movie, least favorite parts about it. What you have done to have changed it? What do you wish they added? What do you wish they changed in general for this? Like I said, I wouldn't have minded if the Skrull were the bad guys the whole time. That's just because of my whole Secret Invasion love. But it is what it is at this point, so we'll see what happens. But I want you guys to put your comments down in the comment section below. So please do that. And of course, thanks for watching.